This video is going to be showing you a solo 13-14 Master Nightfall, getting the Platinum rank on a Warlock on the Disgraced Nightfall. We're going to be doing this with the exotic fusion rifle Bastion, as I done a community poll the other day there. And the weapon that won or got the most percentage was Bastion, so we're going to do it with Bastion. So, this isn't going to be the best loadout. It definitely isn't. It slows the loadout, it slows the whole run down. And if you want to do this quickly, then you want to be using Warmind cells, you know, with all the other types of meta weapons. I'm doing an off the beat run here. It isn't going to be an effective run. Certain aspects of the setup is good, but what really slows down this Nightfall in any case is the modifier Togetherness. So with the massive Nightfall modifiers, they're generally the same, so you'll have a burn for the Nightfall, which this week's arc and environmental damage is increased. That's one, you know, it rotates between solar void or what have you, depending on the Nightfall. Then you get the usual modifiers with champions, equipment locked, match game, all that stuff. Then you'll have one enemy modifier, which I actually forget which one it is this week. And then you'll get a rotating modifier that is Togetherness, attrition, famine, and attrition. So those are the rotators. It's Togetherness. This means it's a nightmare for solo, so you need to spec for healing in your setup. So we use the exotic helmet, the Stag, with the Stasis turret build. We also use the legendary arc sword, a solar scout rifle, and as I said, Bastion. Bastion has changed. It now intrinsically has Unstoppable built within it. So this is my first time sort of using it, so I wanted to see how it performs on Unstoppable, and it performs pretty much as you would expect. It's decent, but I'm not going to be bringing this into anything above master difficulty. But as I said, I'm doing this run because I made a poll and Bastion won, so I'm going to do it with Bastion, okay? Because people were probably most interested in this weapon because it got updated recently. So with this first room, you're going to have two barriers to start out with, a bunch of snipers to your back mid, there's ads to your right, left, literally everywhere. But what you want to do is separate it up and take each side at a time. Like right now I'm doing left, and I'm going to wait till they're frozen with my turret, with my stasis turret, and then go over there and take the arc captain. Because we've got an arc sword on, the only way we can take the shield is with the sword, so we need to get up close. So before you sort of go up there, get a turret, you know, slotted up to that left side, then you can take the captain and the surrounding ads. As soon as we come into this room, we took the barrier straight away, one of them at least. The second one, I generally just leave him, because what you'll find is the ads sort of collapse on you if you try and take the two barriers, unless you've got a weapon that can melt the champs, which I don't. The sword does, but the sword is here and there because Togetherness is on, so I sort of use it situationally and use it when I sort of need to. Then we'll get an additional barrier. We're going to use our super for this so that we can skip most of the rest of the ads. We don't really skip, but it clears the barrier quickly, and we don't really need, we want to be using our super as much as possible. Now there is a seasonal artifact mod for Stasis. I'm not using it because I've got a setup. I'm fine. On my class pick, obviously it's a class armor mod, and I've got distribution on there, and I've got bomber on there, etc. So I'm fine with it. You know, I didn't need to spec for that, and I didn't want to reset my artifact. I know you can bug it out and stuff, but I haven't really bothered doing that. So if you wanted to put that mod on, you can. It's decent, refunds your supers, you're getting more supers. So that's actually pretty good for this. One thing that people don't understand how to do is set up for the turret build. So I haven't talked about my stasis subclass. I'll tell you what aspects and fragments I had on to easily get the turret build, so you keep getting sort of grenades. So first of all, you want the aspects right, so you want Ice Flare Bolt and Bleak Watcher. Bleak Watcher enables you to get the turret, that's the first component. Ice Flare Bolt does the thing where if you kill a stasis target, it's frozen, it then does like a cold snap effect, grenade type thing to the next target, and it keeps going on and on and on, freezing the next target and the next target. Works really well with the nade. Then for the fragments, you've got Whisper of Torment and Shards. The Whisper of Torment gives you grenade energy, the amount of damage that you take. Now if you solo, that's even more than it is in a fighting, so you're getting grenade energy from that. Pairing that with the Shards and the Whisper of Torment, it all synergizes. It means that you're going to always have your turret up. And also I've got Bomber on my class piece, so every time I'm doing a healing reef, I'm getting grenade energy again. So it pretty much means I've always got a stasis turret when I want it. The other two I had on, it always run Whisper of Hedrons. That's a weapon damage buff. Always have that on. When you're doing any stasis PvE, you always put that on first, and then you go from there. And I had Whisper of Durance on, which Whisper of Durance just slows targets longer. I could have used something else, but Whisper of Durance is fine. You see, I want to just throw my Dusk Field on a champion rather than do the turret, because what you've got to realise with the turret is, if you want to specifically melt a champion down and there's 3 champions or 2 champions with a bunch of knights, the turret's going to be unreliable because you can't pick and choose what you want to freeze. If you just throw your Dusk Field on the champion you want to melt, then the Durance is going to help because it'll last longer on that champion, and that way you've controlled which champion you needed to kill there. So there's instances like that. Because this Nightfall is so ad dense, there's a lot of ads in it, it takes quite a while. Cells are going to speed this up. You're going to get runs way faster than what I did. This was really slow, but I couldn't really optimize this loadout. I did try a couple times to try and get it quicker. Couldn't really do it because it's a really reliable start. I'm playing this sort of like, this loadout would be really good GM wise for the stasis and stuff. Not so much Bastion. Scout would be okay. Sword maybe not. You know, you've obviously using different types of loadouts. Wither Horde, Anarchy, stuff like that. Another thing is that the Nightfall boss itself is very tanky. Even when you're at power, which I'm almost at. If you have a debuff like Breach and Clear with a GL, then it's going to speed it up. Now, I used mods on my armour to sort of help out here and there, so I had a Protective Light, High Energy Fire type build with Shield Break Charge and Taking Charge. So all that means is, when I'm breaking a shield, picking up an orb, I'm getting High Energy Fire and I'm getting a Protective Light there. So if I get one shot, then I get the damage resistance. Now, Ada sold Protective Light the other day. It's been sold a couple of times, so it's getting sold. You just need to be regularly checking that Ada's selling it. Okay, all these types of mods, the Charge Light mods and the Warman mods, just constantly check her. So with this section, you're playing mainly from distance. You're using your Stasis Nade when you need, but with the double barriers, so they'll be on perches. The thing with the double barriers is you need to ensure that you don't double stagger them off the box, which it'll become clear what I mean by that. But we're going to use a super on one of them, on the right side one. I like to come here, it's ample cover, and I can sort of take the champion easily enough. Then once we've done that, we'll set up a turret here, and this is kind of nice because what it is with the hive, they hide a lot when you're playing from range. When you push up, they all come out of cover. So there's more acolytes up than you'll think. But when you push up, they all sort of come to you. So we can take a lot of them. Because you want to take those out before you deal with champions. Because what you'll find is you'll get bombarded by solar nades. So you want to take those out. So this is what I mean about the double stun. So basically, these knights can get pushed off the box. If you take them with a primary and let them stand back, if you saw that animation there where he got stunned, he stood back, you then allow the knight to stand forward. It then repositions the knight so he doesn't fall off. Heavy weapons will stagger them off the box. See if I was using Sleeper Simulant, a rocket launcher, stuff like that can. And that's going to be crucial to know for grandmasters, for people. For this it doesn't matter, it's just the only master, it's no big deal. When you get to grandmaster level, you want to know that. Anarchy won't push them off, Weaverhorde won't. That's why these weapons are going to be so good for that setup, for this section and stuff. But certain weapons with like knockback distance on enemies, like Leviathan's Breath for example, if I use that, that would certainly knock them off the box. And what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to get the shield break, and it's going to be a waste of time, you've wasted your ammo. We'll have an Arc Shield Knight at the back. You want to try and take him before the barriers if you can. Always judge it, you know. I can see that the 2 left knights are slowed, so I'm sort of safe-ish to take the knight with my sword. We've got the exotic helmet, the Stag on, so we keep getting healing rifts. So that works out really well for this Nightfall because Togetherness is on. If Togetherness wasn't on, then I would be using something else. You know, I wouldn't have to use, you know, constant healing rifts, but it just helps out in this run in particular. You'll see the power of Stasis here, we're just freezing both. Use a bit of Bastion, see what sort of damage it does. It does okay damage, it's fine. It's a fusion. It's probably one of the better of the fusions, but it's not bad. It's a good change to an exotic, and this is what they need to do with probably 90% of the other exotics that we have. Put some mods into them, you know. Don't just give us one at a time though, it's too slow. I know they've got things they need to do, but just do it. Just put a couple of mods on a lot of exotics, like Outbreak Prime, give you anti-barrier or something. Sunshot, give that unstoppable. Just put it all in there, and if you get the mods wrong, if one mod's out of place on a gun, just change it another season. It's fine, but don't drip feed all these exotics. You know, just like, oh, we'll give you Bastion this season, we'll give you this season. You know, give us like 10 exotics with intrinsic barrier mods, you know, at once. I'm sure it can't be that hard to do that. That's my opinion on it anyways. But they are going to rework the exotics. Apparently there's going to be an overhaul of it all. With this section we're just mainly using the turret again. There'll be 2 barriers. They're easily sort of dealt with. The main thing is that they make the fallen immune, so you want to be careful of those. The turret helps out. If you freeze the champion, it will stop the tether on the adds. I mean, you can take out the adds. So always lead with the turret, lead with the healing, and you can go from there with it. Then once you've got your 2 barriers down, just 2 vandals at the back, fine. Just take them without fusion, what have you. You'll find I get a lot of ammo, a constant stream of ammo for all my weapons, because I put ammo finders on. So I've got fusion rifle ammo finder on and sword ammo finder on. It helps out massively. Combining that with the scavengers as well, it just means that you can use your weapon more than you should be, and you still get ammo. I went for the flag here. If there is a flag there, go and collect it, it will fill you back on ammo. I didn't really need to do that because I had 50 sword ammo. So that literally, all that flag gave me was an extra 10 ammo. But I went and got that just to demonstrate. When you pick up an heroic public event flag, you get max ammo. And because it's a public space, you can get that and then continue on with your strike. If you didn't have your super, it would give you your super as well. So now we'll just wait for the door. It seems to be slow. I'm not sure why. Eventually it'll pop up. And then we're on to the sort of boss section. So the boss is going to have a constant solar shield. If anyone's new to this, if they haven't done it, then basically it's going to be a match game shield of solar all the time to deal with. So that's why you need, it's best to have a solar primary in this, especially if you're doing a grandmaster solo. When they come around, bring a solar primary and have an arc heavy. It doesn't work out better if you do it the other way around. Say if you do a solar heavy and an arc primary, it's not going to work out as well, because you need a constant stream of solar at any time, because what will happen is the boss can go into cover and you need a constant stream of solar. So we used our arc stasis to take out the Thrall. Then we're going to use a Super to take out both barriers. If two barriers are close enough to each other, you can take out double barriers with one Super, like you'll see there. Always be cautious of your health, because arc damage is increased and the boss can melt you. That's why we've got double arc damage resistance on to spec for it. I could have went arc damage resistance and concussive dampener, that will work out as well, but they do stack. So if you put two double element resistance mods on, they stack together and it's even more potent. And what you'll find is, what's the biggest threat? You always ask yourself in a Nightfall, what's the biggest threat in this Nightfall? And then you say, well, what type of damage does that enemy do? Say it's Glassware and it's Wyverns, then it's Void. Say you're in a Grandmaster and you're fighting Fallen and the Snipers, then it's Snipers and it's Arc, so you put Arc damage and Sniper resistance. They reworked all the resistance mods and now it's simple. If you come to a problem where you're getting killed by melees, put on the melee resistance. If you're getting problems with Snipers, get Sniper on there. If Solar is the problem, double Solar. But Concussive Dampener is a general resistance mod that works against area of effect damage. Sometimes you might want to go double concussive, sometimes it just depends what you're doing. With this section, what we're doing here is trying to do enough damage to the boss to let the boss go away. You'll hear audio cue, the boss will scream. When that happens, the champions will spawn in, the boss will then retreat. So that's all we're doing with this. I'm trying not to use sword ammo or go over there and use sword, because there's a bunch of knights and stuff to my left up the hill, so you don't want to loop around that corner. So now you have a bunch of Curse Thrall, anti-barrier champion at the top and unstoppable at the bottom. So we can use Bastion here. You'll find it does decent damage. The closer you are, obviously it's got hasn't got the best of range. The closer you are to the unstoppable, the more you're going to do. This is a good little spot to stun the champion right there. And then what we're trying to do here is bait out the two Curse Thrall. There'll be an additional two Curse Thrall that'll push you. So what we want to do is take those first before the barrier. The barriers it can be difficult because of our loadout. We've got a sword, we've got close quarter weapons apart from the scout. So you want to rely on the scout to do the work. Now if you haven't got Vision of Confluence, the other solar scouts would be there's a blue solar scout, it looks like Banana, can't mind the name of it. I'm sure you know what scout I'm referring to though if you watch solar runs. There's that one with explosive, it's really good. Then you've got the Pleiades Corrector, which there was a god roll sold last week or the week before with 4 times the charm and kill and wind, I think it was. You should have picked up that scout. Always check the gunsmith for weapons like that. That's a god roll, that. So I picked up that. I was going to use that, but I used Vision instead because I like this Vision that I'm using. So that's the barrier dealt with. Always keep an eye on your ammo drops. So we've got plenty of heavy on the floor, so we have license to spam our sword. Plenty of special as well, so we're in a good position. We're going to do a Stasis Nade first to blind them. Usually I would use a super on this section, but I didn't quite have it. That's fine. We got the turret. What the goal of that was to get as many of the arc shields while they're frozen as quickly as possible. Because what you'll find is if you push the knights, if there's 2 or 3 knights, you push them and you have no means of healing, you're going to get wrecked by those knights because arc damage is on. So getting 2 or 3 knights off one turret is a success. That's the goal of that. Then we'll come to this section here so you can sort of head glitch. And it's a perfect place to do a Stasis Nade. Depending on how the barriers bunch up. I went for the one, I should have went for the left knight to be honest. Fine, you'll see the damage of Bastion. Bear in mind it's getting buffed by the Hedrons and stuff, so it's decent, there's no doubt about it, but as I said, the problem with this game and endgame activities is that close quarter weapons aren't rewarded. The only ones, swords. Lament is, but who brings shotguns and fusions into endgame content? You don't. Because everything, there needs to be maybe, I don't know what they need to do to balance it, but there needs to be something, like, for example, the first season the Grandmasters came out, I can't mind, it was the season of the whatever, I can't mind what season it was. Sorry, it was Shadowkeep. I think it was the season after that. One of the seasons had anti-barrier sidearm. It was anti-barrier sidearm, overload SMG, I think. So there was, everything was sort of close quarters, which was a nightmare. And the reason why is it's not because the sidearm's bad in PvP. They're designed to sort of be weapons used for middle game content. They're not designed for things like this. It's a bit of a problem because that's a whole archetype of a weapon that's pretty much almost useless in Grandmasters, and that's what they're going towards. This is the problem that we have, is dungeons are going to be massive difficulties for that. Raids are going that way, so it's going to be, well, they won't buff scouts because they don't want us to use scouts, but yet they'll have weapons, close quarter weapons, that are pretty much useless in endgame stuff. So you're going to want to use a pulse, and you're going to want to use scout rifles, and you're going to want to use hand cannons. You're not going to want to use a sidearm. SMGs are strong, they can be, but again, it's that risk, and there should be a risk and reward with it, and there isn't, because the risk is you're going to die, more than likely, when you could just peg them down with a scout or a pulse, or even a hand cannon with, you know, a lot more range. So I don't know what they can do about it. Maybe get rid of health regen mods. We don't want none of that all the time, because it makes Warlocks best in class all the time, because we can negate, a Warlock can negate Togetherness easily with builds. There's so many different setups. I could have used Dawnblade with the Phoenix Dive ability. I could have used over a Karnstein armlets, stuff, all sorts of things. What's the Titan got? Well, the Titan's got the Sunbreaker setup with the grenades for regen, bottom tree. It's got Crest of Alpha Lupi, it's got One Eye Mask, that's it. What else has it got? It hasn't got much things to cater towards health. The Hunter hasn't got much, it's got Wormless Crown, and then that's it for health regen. So this is where I think they need to start doing more burn mods. Do Rainbow Burn, do Arc, Void, Solar. Do Quad Burn, do Arc, Void, Solar, Stasis Burn. So everything in the game hits you really hard, but there's no health penalties. You know, just stick to things like that rather than doing these sort of mods, because these mods, it just means that, alright, well, I'm going to play passive for them because I have to, unless you've got a War Mine build on with Fire Team Medic and etc. So what we're trying to do here is freeze as many knights as possible, because as I said earlier, the more knights you freeze from a nade and get those down, the better it is, because they're just going to spam you. I was close there, lucky, I was sort of lucky there, and I shouldn't have pushed up that far. The reason why that knight nearly killed me is because Empath's on. So that's the mod. So basically, you take increased damage from melee damage. Like quite a lot. It's kind of like Blackout. It's not quite as bad as Blackout, but it can be pretty bad. So since we don't really have means of melting this boss fast, we have to take it sort of slow, and what it is, the adds are linked to the boss's HP. So for every 5%, you're getting like a wave of thralls. So pay attention to the radar. You only need to do a little bit of damage to the boss, you'll get waves of thrall spawning behind you. So it's just a thing. It's just another thing to consider. During this middle phase, the boss will hang out on this bridge. So what I tend to do is, I'll do a healing here. If I've got my turret, I'll use that. But I'll get a shield break charge, that gives us high energy fire. We're now getting a 20% damage bonus. We'll maybe use a bit of Bastion, we'll maybe use the sword, just depends how I feel. Depends on what ammo's on the floor as well. For example, say I've got full sword ammo or close to, but there's no ammo on the floor for sword, but there's loads of green, then I'm going to use Bastion. If it's the other way around, because Bastion's our unstoppable weapon, then I'm going to use a bit of sword. You know, because then you want to save a bit of Bastion because there's some unstoppables coming up. You don't need that many shots. Probably 4 shots per champion. There's 2 unstoppables in this. So, you know, when you get down to 8 shots and there's no green on the floor, stop using Bastion at that point. Oh, that applies to any weapon you're using, that statement. Whether you're using Anarchy, whether you're using Witherhoard, whether you're using a machine gun. It's a general comment about solo runs in general when you're managing your ammo. Manage your ammo, look at what's on the floor, know what your ammo is capable of in terms of what's its max, how much ammo do you get per brick, have you got Scavenger on, all that stuff. So again, we'll do a healing behind this box, get a shield break. I'm going to go in with sword. That'll get him immune. On this phase, we'll have the unstoppable and acolytes. There's a bunch of acolytes that spawn. So what you could do is either use your super or use a stasis nade on the hill. I probably should have used a stasis nade. This was a bad use of the super, to be honest. But the idea is about this setup is you're catering towards adds, not so much boss damage. Which if Togetherness wasn't on, I probably would have went Chaos Reach. Maybe even used a GL in a loadout at some, you know, fitting that in with a Breach and Clear, debuff the boss, use Chaos Reach. It would do massive damage. It would probably do a third or close to, and it would speed up this run considerably. This run's really good up until the boss. When we get to the boss, it's real slow. Just because I haven't got any debuffs going. I've got a buff going. But again, this boss is quite tanky. This actual Nightfall, if somebody is watching this and they're like 13, say they're 13, 20, and they're trying to do a solo master on this would be harder than a grandmaster, because it would essentially be like a grandmaster but with Togetherness on. And we all know Togetherness just has chaff or whatever. It doesn't have rotating mods. It just has chaff as the Nightfall. So doing a Nightfall master under leveled is harder than a grandmaster. But there's no rewards tied to that. And if you told somebody that, they would just question you and say, no, that doesn't sound right. But it's true. A master under leveled is harder than a grandmaster because there's attrition, Togetherness, famine. You don't get any of these mods that are really rubbish on grandmasters. And I would say they know that. They've probably balanced that because the grandmasters are just they're just wanting to be that sandbox difficulty element of it. So you're doing it underpowered. That's the gimmick of it. We'll take the unstoppable that spawns down below. That will then spawn the boss up top for the next wave of DPS. The boss will stay there till a third HP or just below. But again, there's mini phases within each phase of Thrall, waves of Thrall coming. You can freeze this boss, but he's only frozen for a little bit. Next wave of Thrall. Anytime you have your melee, try to use that as well on the Thrall, just helps out. And Whisper of Shards will help out by getting additional phrases. I was turreting it just finished then, I believe, so it lasts for a long time, for sure. Get shield break charge again, high energy fire. Do a bit of damage, get out immediately. If you're lower than me, power wise, if you're below 13, 35, something like that, then doing a sword run on this isn't going to be good. You're just going to take too much damage, and you will probably die at times when I didn't. The double arc resistance will help, but as I said, this isn't a run I'm recommending people to do. It's just what a post I made, and people said, right, Bastion's the favourite. So this loadout works for... The whole setup is based around Bastion to make the run work. There'll be some runs where I'll do them to make the weapon work. So you've got to work harder. This is what people don't realise, like, with runs, is a solo run can drastically vary depending on your loadout. In a fire team it doesn't matter because there's 3 of you. Okay? There's 3 people to do a champion, there's 3 people to do DPS. On a solo run it can go really quick or really slow or in the medium depending on what you're using. And depending on what the Nightfall run is. This is a long Nightfall in terms of, if you haven't got Warmind cells, it drastically changes it. But the reason why I'm playing without Warmind cells at times is because they're going to nerf Warmind cells. So you want to get back to clearing ads manually. Okay, Warmind cells are cool and they're very powerful. But we have had them for quite a bit now, and they are starting to become to the point where shoot your cell, you clear your room, you go to the next room. And that's bypassing a lot of ads in the game, where you come to the point where if I don't use cells, then you're severely hindering yourself. And we're getting to the point where it was with the armaments, taken armaments, hive armaments, fallen armaments. Maybe not as bad as that, but you're getting to that stage of, this is the best setup in the game. If you don't use it, you're not playing the game correctly. And that's where it's getting to, and you never want that, because you want, the best thing about this is when there's variety. That's why I do variety stuff in my runs. If I'm watching someone's run, or if I've watched 3 or 4 runs of a particular Nightfall, someone's soloing it, if I've seen 4 people with the same loadout, it puts me off using what they've used. Because it's just, well, we know how that run's going to go. It's nothing interesting, so I'm not adding anything. Unless it's a video teaching somebody to say, use this loadout, pretty easy, you'll get it done. And if they're new to it, they'll say, alright, that's a good idea. There's a point to the video then. But if you're just doing a video with no commentary, and it's just, right, I'll use Anarchy, I'll use a Unstoppable GL, maybe the Solar, or maybe the Truth Teller, with the Kinetic Scout, what have you. It's just run of the mill. There's, you know, there's no point then at that point. May as well not make a video, just do the solo run for my loot, and then be on with my day. There's no point. That's just how I look at things at times. So we're going to use a super here because it's a good time to do so. There's a lot of ads, nights coming out. There'll be curse spawn. There's a couple of nights. The ad rotation changes for each phase. So on this final phase, you've got a bunch of cursed knights that spawn each time and fall. You can't just stand back here and DPS the boss either, because cursed and knights will push. Eventually they push up to you, so you want to take them out. So on this run you'll end up seeing every ad phase. So if you're doing a grandmaster solo in weeks to come, because they're coming around, we're nearly to grandmasters. The first one released next week. What you need to remember is, if you're practicing runs now on Master, all the ad spawns are exactly the same, the champion spawns are exactly the same. So once you have remembered all the spawns for Master, you have learned Grandmaster in terms of the ad spawns. Because you need it on Grandmaster, it's crucial to know everything about it, because it will be a wipe if you don't. If you're standing in the wrong position just slightly, that's it, it's over. So knowing all the ad spawns in advance is crucial, but as I say, you can learn the ad spawns on the lower difficulty. Legend's different. Legend has different spawns in terms, well, different there's less champions, but there may be more arc shields, so it's a little bit different. I'll use a bit of sword. We'll always lead with a healing rift because the boss can melt, so you've got that backup. This is the last wave of ads, last wave of knights and stuff. Okay, good freeze here. You'll see the aspect of Shards working out helping us there. We'll do a turret nade as well, because there's a bunch of ads push. As I said, they do push. Looks like we've got 2 waves there, and you can do, depending on the DPS you do to the boss. My particular sword has Surrounded on it on his edge. Doesn't roll with Whirlwind, which is a shame. Surrounded's okay, but Whirlwind would have been better as a perk for this. This is it now, no more ads, so we'll just get to a better position. Using the pillars in middle works out really good, because what you find is if you're on this balcony right here, the boss will back up behind a pillar, and that's not really what you want. What you want to do is go behind somewhere and then use a healing in middle. Since the video is about Bastion, we'll use Bastion to finish the boss. We've got Sheltered by the Void, so as you can see, Protective Light's helped out a lot in this run, just because Togetherness is on. You know, it helps out for that. But that was the solo master on this. It was a long run, so I apologise about that. But as I said, we've done the run with Bastion, so it is going to be slower because of that. Hope you enjoy, thank you.
Navota's play for power showed the danger in high logic, but also its flaws. In proving that the path to victory